Hola a todos! If you're in year 11 and scrambling to write or learn your general conversation questions, this video might help. I'm going to show you my real conversation questions and answers from 3 years ago when I sat my speaking exam, and I'll show you my process for learning them. Vamos! Okay, so I sat AQA higher tier, and these questions are split into the three themes. So theme 1 is identity and culture, theme 2 is local, national, international, and global areas of interest, and theme 3 is about current and future study and employment. Let's open these toggles one by one, and you can basically see model answers for these questions. So, first off, you'll notice with the questions, there's more than one. As your teacher might not be allowed to ask the entire class the exact same questions, more often than not, your teacher will have to reword the question for different students. So that's what this is. It's basically just multiple variations of the same question. So this first one is about having a big family, and here you can see my answer. One thing you'll notice is the different colors. So each sentence I've put in a different color. So when I learn these answers, I always learn them one sentence at a time, and these different colors helps me sort of distinguish between different sentences. So this response here has got 5 sentences. It's quite a lengthy response. Normally I would advise 2 to 3 sentences per answer, and then you can sort of have a read through and look at the different vocabulary, sentence starters, tenses and stuff in this response. You'll also notice in between where the two different sentences join, I've put the last and first word in bold, so this helps me know in the exam. After I've said the word caro, the next word is en. Sometimes, especially if you learn like one sentence at a time, you'll struggle sort of putting them together, which sentence comes next. So if you know the first and last words of each sentence, then that'll help you sort of join them all together sometimes. So that's what I've done here. Same with like común and no. So after común, the next one's going to be no. Same with problemas and me. Again, so that helps me just in my head join those two sentences together. Okay, let's keep going then. So this one here is about having a lot of friends. So crees que es importante tener muchos amigos. And again, you can see my response. Again, quite a long one. And I'm going to point to some good sentence starters I've used. So diría que is like I would say that. Que yo sepa, as far as I know. De ahora en adelante, like from now onwards. And you can see the different, even like I've underlined things as well, I think just to help myself learn it. So all this different formatting helps me because I'm a visual learner. So in my head, I can just picture the different colors in these responses, and yeah, it just helps me learn them. Again, quite a long one. This is about technology. So I've used advantages and disadvantages. So using something like por un lado and like por otro lado on one side and on the other side. Yeah, let's keep going. This is one about sport. This one's a bit shorter. One thing you'll notice is here the word pues. This word just means well. It's like a filler word in English, but obviously pues in Spanish just means well. Throughout these answers, I've embedded some of these filler words just to make myself sound more natural, and you get more marks for spontaneity for this. Obviously, if you're just repeating each answer word for word like really quickly, you'll sound robotic. That's what you want to avoid in the exam. So even though you've memorized your answers, you need to sound as if you're making up on the spot. That's where your sort of natural speaking comes from. And using words like pues, bueno will help you those filler words. Okay, let's keep going. So this one's about like television, a program on television that you have watched recently. This one, a much shorter. I clearly didn't like this question very much. But yeah, these answers do not have to be real. You can make it up. So I've not seen this film. It's a TV program called Marco. I've just like, made it up. You can do that. And it'll help you just diversify your responses as well. This one, differences between sort of Spanish life and like English life, etc. And the last one for theme 1 about Spanish festivals. Festivals is a tricky topic. And I'll put in the description a knowledge organizer that will help you sort of come up with ideas on what to say. So I know festivals, if you don't know any Spanish festivals, it will be difficult to answer this question. So I'll put some links in the description to help you with this. And then here at the very bottom below all of my questions, I've put 2 questions to ask the examiner. So in the conversation, you will have 2 themes, and somewhere in between those 2 themes, you will have to ask at least 1 question to your teacher. So here I've pre-written 2 questions. So for example, I think both of these are theme 2. So after I read out or whatever the question 2, this one here, I will ask the teacher, vives en una zona contaminada. This will help me just remind myself I need to ask these questions. I've sort of pre-planned them as well. Both of these are for theme 2 because in my exam I chose theme 2. I nominated theme 2 as my theme. So in the exam, each student can pick one of these 3 themes as their like student's chosen theme, and that theme will come up first, and then one other theme will come up as well. So theme 2 I knew was going to come up because I chose that. So I sort of put extra effort in learning the theme 2 questions. And my sort of questions to ask the teacher are both for theme 2 as well. Okay, let's keep going with theme 2 then. So this is about your dream house. Describe la casa de tus sueños. Using me gustaría is like a conditional, I would like something in the conditional tense in the future. I'm mixing up with some subjunctive as well. So si tuviera la oportunidad, si fuera rico as well as the imperfect subjunctive. This should be a here. So si fuera rico. Okay, let's keep going. So this is the imperfect tense. How was your house in the past? So I start off by using the well, here's the preterite tense. Tuve is the preterite. Then I've got the imperfect, no había, for example. And then see, I mixed in the present tense at the end. So comparing where I used to live versus where I live now. In terms of practicing your answers, I recommend getting friends and family to test you, even in class. Your teacher should give you time in class to practice like with your friends and stuff. And maybe your teacher will pull you off individual mocks and stuff just to practice these responses. The conversation is 30 marks, so that's 50% of the full 60 marks. So definitely it's worth learning these responses really well. And sort of a side bonus is these responses you can also use in the writing exam. So if like your 90-word question, your 150-word question, you can repeat some of these sentences, some of these phrases in those writing questions as well. Okay, this is about your holidays and stuff. Again, you can see the different colors I've used for each sentence. Okay, let's just zoom through some of these last ones here. You'll see in terms of the starting of each sentence, some of them I will use the words in the question. So if you're unsure how do I, start my response, use the words in the question. Para estar en forma, so to stay in shape, to stay in form. Those same 4 words appear in the question as well. Okay, and this final one is about homelessness and helping people. I haven't done as much colors in this one. Okay, and then lastly, theme 3. These have got a few fewer questions, I think. Okay, so describe your primary school. Again, starting off with the imperfect tense. Using exclamatives like que horror, which is how awful. Using words like por desgracia to begin a sentence, which is unfortunately. This means unfortunately. With pronunciation, you'll see if I struggle to pronounce a word. For example, this is like a new idiom. I was unsure how to pronounce the word Kiko. I just write it in brackets somewhere in a way that makes sense to me. Okay, this is about school rules. Again, you see the word pues coming in here. So some of these, some of my responses are longer than others, but as I said, 2 to 3 sentences is enough. You don't want to make them too long, because it will end up being too one-sided. It should be a conversation. It should be a back and forth. I also say if you can ask more than one question to your teacher, do that. It will alleviate some of the pressure for you if you got some time to think while you ask your teacher another question. So it shouldn't feel like you're just reading paragraphs at a time. Okay, and then a few more here. So this one I have not color coded it. About why do you want to learn Spanish, and then your future plans, and then lastly, earning money. What have you done recently to earn money? And then here's 4 sentences. Si hubiera podido, if I could, I would return to the restaurant because the job was very fun. Okay. One other thing I'm going to mention before we end off this video is don't make your responses too complex. Right? If you make them too complex, it's harder for you to learn. You're more likely to make mistakes and it sounds unnatural. So you'll see I've used words like divertido in here. There's nothing wrong with that. I have got varied vocabulary, but I've not made it too overly complex. Yeah, so you can pause through the video and read through these answers in more detail if you want. But definitely vary your vocabulary, but don't go too extreme and too complicated. Okay, that's all the conversation questions I had when I sat my exam. I really hope this video helps you write your own ones. Please don't copy these answers directly, use them as inspiration. In terms of learning these answers, I know people struggle with that. I would recommend learning one sentence at a time and do it one question at a time. Don't learn one sentence of each response. I would just focus on one question at a time, one sentence, next sentence, next sentence. And once you've got them all mastered in a row, and you don't forget halfway through what's coming next. Then you can sort of move on to different questions. Prioritize the theme that you've picked. For example, for me that was theme 2, so I would really focus on theme 2 first, and then you do also need to learn sort of themes 1 and 3 as well. Using like color coding, putting things in bold will help you if you're a visual learner like I am. And then the last thing, if you want a private tutoring lesson from us for anything speaking related or not, you can go to astarspanish.com/tutoring. That's it. Adios.